has given us not just what to do, but has given us substantial evidence to support why we should believe the things that we believe, or at least evidence that corroborates the faith we have in Christ based on what he has revealed to us. And so, why is it prudent for us to look at these types of things, arguments, and the evidences that support Christianity? And those, I give you two main categories. One is, by the way, if this is distracting, I can turn the level off and just talk loud. So just sort of waving, shut off the light, it's feeling or not working well. Appreciate my tech team in the back. There's two main reasons why we should perhaps study apologetics in defense of the faith. One is because we are limited, finite human beings with a limited understanding of an infinite God and his world, and inevitably we're going to bump up against the boundaries of what we'd like to know, or the questions that we have that remain unanswered. And that brings up that evil D word nobody wants to talk about, doubt. Now, if you look through Scripture, it's amazing how often our heroes of the faith experience moments of doubt. In fact, if you read the beginning of the Gospels, you see John the Baptist testifying boldly about Jesus. You see him, seeing the Holy Spirit descend upon him like a dove. He hears the voice from heaven of the Father, "This is my Son." And yet, a few chapters later, things are not going the way John the Baptist thought they were going to go. He ends up in jail. Meanwhile, that's not what's supposed to happen. The Messiah is supposed to come and set the captives free. Why am I in prison here, waiting for my death? So he sends his disciples to Jesus and says, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect somebody else?" Does Jesus bash John the Baptist in this moment? No. He provides the evidence for his disciples to report back to John, and he affirms John before the people. Because God knows that we have limited cognitive capacity, limited understanding, and doubt is intrinsic to human beings. We are going to experience that. And by God's grace, he's given us evidence to answer a lot of those questions, to remove that doubt, and to continue to have faith in him. So one of the reasons we study this is so that we can continue to wrestle with our doubts honestly before God, and to have a stronger faith in the The other side is, as we follow God's call to live out the Great Commission, we are going to engage with other people who have their own worldviews, their own ideals, their own presuppositions, their own beliefs about the world, and they're not just going to drop them because you say that they're wrong and you're right. They need reason to believe it. So, by God's grace, again, he's given us good arguments, good evidence to be able to demonstrate the truth of that which we know. Revelation. So the first 2 weeks we've been here, we've been taking a look at the Scriptures. How do we know they're reliable? How do we know that they are, that what we have today is an accurate representation of what was written all those years ago? And today we're going to turn our focus to God himself. How do we know that God really does exist? How do we know that the God who exists is the same God that we see represented in the Bible, and that we put our faith in? And so this is what we're going to take a look at. I remember back in childhood, every time something traumatic happened, mind you, I didn't grow up as a Christian. I grew up in an agnostic Jewish family, so we were Jewish, not Jews who believe in Jesus, and didn't really know if God existed. Didn't really know if they could know if God existed. In fact, I never believed God thought, unless things were going wrong. And in those moments, I'd lob up a prayer, hoping that somebody, something, could do something about it, heard me, and can respond. And so how do we know when we encounter people who don't have a belief in God's existence? How can we demonstrate the truth of God's existence and the fact that it is in fact about the Bible that exists? So we're going to take a look at that. Not all today. We're going to do that over the course of probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I want to leave lots of room for questions, because if this is not practical, then it's a waste of our time. So I want us to be able to get our questions answered. I want us to be able to overcome our own questions and to be able to articulate some of these things to other people as we use these questions and objections. So we're going to be demonstrating the existence of God through three different sets of arguments. One is going to be from the origin of the universe. That apart from God's existence, there would be nothing. And so we're going to take a look at that. Is that true? We'll look at that today. We're going to take a look at the argument from design. The fact that God's very fingerprints, who God is represented in that which he created. And it can't be explained in any other way. So we're going to take a look at that. And we're going to take a look at the fact that there is objective moral standards and a moral law that's universal in our world. Now, some people will deny that, and we're going to take a look. It's actually undeniable. We'll take a look at that together today. Over the course of the next 3 weeks. And these are the three main arguments we're going to look at for the existence of God. So today we're going to spend our time here in the origin of the universe as evidence for God's existence, the biblical God's existence. So here's philosophers have been batting this whole thing around forever, right? So here's what Leibniz says. He said, the first question that should rightly be asked is, why is there something rather than nothing? What's he talking about with something? Why are there people? Why is there Earth? Why are there stars? Why is there space? Why is there anything at all? There has to be an answer. If there's something, why is it here? How did it get here? Following the same line through history, there is Martin Heidegger, another philosopher. He's writing about metaphysics, which is a discipline or a category of philosophical thought. He said, why are there beings at all? And why not rather nothing? It's the same question, just phrased in a way. Why is there something instead of nothing at all? And this is that search for the cause for the being created the universe. And so here's going to be our argument for this. This is a logical argument. Maybe you learned logic in school. I learned it in 8th grade or 9th grade math class. You learned it in school. And when I took logic in school, I saw a hand right there. I took logic in 9th grade math class, first year of high school. We memorized truth tables and P and not P, and P therefore Q, and had to memorize it for the test at the end of the year. I walked out of that test and instantly forgot it all because the teacher forgot to teach one very important thing. Why are we learning this? What on earth does this have to do with anything in life? Yeah, the teacher didn't teach that part. It wasn't until many years later I realized, hey, wait a second, here we do be without logic. Well, this is a logical argument. The first two are premises, and the last is a conclusion. If the premises are true, the conclusion logically follows. And that's what I mean by that. So here's the argument. Everything that began to exist has a cause. Premise number one. Premise number two, the universe began to exist. If those two are true, then the universe has a cause. So why is this important? Why do you think it's important? Why is it important to know if the universe had a cause or not? What do you think?
Stephen Hawking?
What was that?
Stephen Hawking?
All right, yeah. So Stephen Hawking will get into whether or not there's a naturalistic cause or a divine cause. Or one of the biggest arguments now is they're trying to theorize that there's, it's quantum mechanics. It wasn't really nothing. It was something.
I watched a documentary and he knew what he about.
Okay.
And he was creative. That's
Sure.
And it was like, now I'm having to watch the whole thing. Basically, he got to the end and said that, from the Big Bang was taking a black hole. And he just keep repeating it twice in that documentary. Like the original mention was Christianity. He said, basically, one time he said, Christians would think back in the day that I had a curse because of the way the biblical. And the other point of view, he's like, I'd rather know that the universe made a mistake than God created the universe.
Yeah, but isn't it funny how oftentimes our arguments against God's existence and God's goodness come from something we're suffering here on the But yeah, these are important. And the fact that they're trying to reason there is because this is such a powerful argument that they need to find a loophole. Okay? Because what we're going to look at today, and I'll let the cat out of the bag. You want to see what's at the end? You want to see the conclusion before we get to the beginning? The universe had a beginning. It had a beginning, it has to have a beginner, and that beginner, out of necessity, and we take a look at this, has to be, by definition, God. And we're going to take a look at God. So this is why it's important for us to understand. There are a lot of atheists throughout history who have posited that the universe has always existed. It's just static. It has always been here. Well, that would be an argument against God's existence. But science actually supports the belief that at one point there was nothing, and then everything came into being. In fact, it came into being at the exact same time by an all-powerful creator. But let's make sure we're not just Christians believing whatever we want to believe. Let's hope there's a basis for our belief. So we'll take a look at this together. Let's start with the first premise. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. Kevin didn't make this up. This is actually a principle of causality. This is something you learn in science. This is a guiding principle of science. We know a different way. Cause and effect. Right? We can identify an effect. Sometimes we have to search for a cause, but we know there's one there. Right? This is why, bobcats and Buicks and Williams don't just pop out of nowhere. They're uncreated, uncaused, right? Everything that came to be has a cause. And so that's pretty self-explanatory. In fact, I've had people argue with me this way. I've had people say, well, what about magic? All right, well, let's imagine that apart from illusion and all of that, somebody could pull a rabbit that didn't exist in the hat before out of the hat. Well, even in that case, you have a hat and you have a magician. There's still cause and effect. I believe that's sleight of hand, but everything. There's nothing you can point to and say that there's an effect that did not have a cause. Everything that began to exist had a cause. So you don't have to spend a lot of time. Here's the part that I have to spend time. The universe began to exist. How do we know that is true? Okay, well, we're here for one, right? How many of you have heard this phrase, the Big Bang? Okay, and I even saw some expressions on faces, and I get that. It's funny how often I've seen Christians, get really riled up about this concept of the Big Bang. I'll tell you what the Big Bang does. It proves God's existence. Now, scientists will give you a naturalistic reason for the singularity or the Big Bang. Those arguments don't hold water. We'll take a look at that, why that's the case. But the fact that everything came into being at a point in the finite past, that's evidence for God, and we're going to see that together. So we're going to spend some time here. How do you know the universe began to exist? It hasn't always been here. And we can be sure the universe began to exist. Yes, it's a clever acronym I stole from one of my professors. And here's what sure is going to stand for today. So if you need help memorizing some things, hopefully this will stick in your mind. You can be sure. And so here are the 4 things we're going to take a look at today. Now, if you were like, I love the history component for the last 2 weeks. Oh, science? Woo! That's not my forte. That's all right. It wasn't mine either. I was history and English all the way. Okay? We're going to break this down to the simplest components today. We're going to take a look at the second law of thermodynamics. We already this and that. The fact that the universe is expanding, still expanding. Right? We're going to look at Einstein's general theory of relativity. E equals mc squared, right? And n of infinite time is impossible. And none of that may have any meaning for you right now, but we'll get there. So here we go. Let's start with the first one. And I don't need to give you a dictionary definition or a high school textbook definition. of the second law of thermodynamics. It talks about closed system and energy and all these kinds of things. Here's the implications. Here's what scientists cannot deny. Here's this one of the true implications of this guiding principle of physics is that the universe is running out of usable energy. And you might think, so? Well, let's explore this for a minute. Who has ever had the unfortunate experience of grabbing a flashlight because a storm went by and the power went out, and the flashlight's batteries were not that fresh? What happens? The dim light doesn't work, right? If you put fresh batteries in it, you leave it on, and it just sits there. Well, it's eventually going to start to dim, and then it's eventually going to go out. Why does that happen? It happens because it's running out of usable energy. It has a limited amount of energy, and when it's expended, it's gone. Here's the thing. The universe, if it had existed forever, it didn't have a beginning, it didn't need a beginner, it's always been here, right? Then it couldn't possibly be running out of usable energy. Why? Why do you think? If there was an infinite number of days before today, and the universe was running out of usable energy, what would have happened a long time ago? What was that? Speak loud. It would have run out already. It would have run out already. In fact, if we're talking about an infinite amount of time, as it's always existed, it would have been an infinite amount of time ago. Batteries ran out, and the universe would have run out of energy, and guess what? We would be here. And we see evidence of this, right? We see this. We see, everything from erosion to stars losing heat, changing color, and eventually going out. Everything in the universe is running out of usable energy. The second law of thermodynamics demonstrates by itself that the universe couldn't always have existed had it had a beginning, because otherwise it would have already run out of usable energy. Long before you and I are down the planet. Here's another point. This was Einstein's theory. It was demonstrated by other physicists and even recognized by the Hubble telescope, okay, is the fact that our universe is still expanding. So I want you to picture this for a minute. You see that yellow circle on the end, right? That's representing the Big Bang, or if you don't want to use that terminology, we'll say the singularity. That's what they would use in science anyway. And from that point, everything came into being. Time, space, and matter came into being. Our universe came into being and is continually expanding. Now, I mentioned that this was theorized and proven to be true by Hubble. And what did Hubble see? He saw what he referred to as a red shift, which it would have been a blue shift if it was moving backwards. It was a red shift, meaning that things are moving farther away. And what we see is that throughout all of existence of the universe is still expanding outward. You want to hear something really creepy that I can't wrap my mind around? Even space itself is expanding. So here's the thing, why is that important that the universe is expanding? It's important because if you hit the cosmic rewind button and watch the expansion go in the other direction, what you would see is everything coming back and collapsing back upon its origin. There was a finite point in the past. Everything came into being. And if you walk that path, there is no eternal universe. There's a beginning point, but before that, there was nothing. How about relativity? It's my grandfather there. That's Albie. All right, so none of you thought you were coming today and learn about Einstein's general theory of relativity. And I'm not a physicist, I'm not going to explain it to you, but I'm going to tell you again the implication of it. Because here's bottom line facts that you can walk away from because of Einstein's theory that has been demonstrated to be true over and over again. Here's what P equals mc squared implies that time, space, and matter, okay, are contingent on one another. They could not exist apart from one another. They all came into being at the same point, and they haven't always existed. Okay? So think about that for a minute. What is our universe made of? Matter, right? Nothing existed, right? And time, space, and matter came into being at the exact same moment. They were contingent on one another. There was a point in which time, space, and matter did not exist. Nothing. We'll talk about nothing. What else is there? Nothing existed. And again, this was his theory, and this is, has been demonstrated to be true in multiple times. So that's SUR. What's the last one? End of infinite time is impossible. I need a brave, fit volunteer. Who wants to join me? Jordan's pointed out Gabe. Let's go, Gabe. Oh, I never tell you what to do.
Not today.
All right, very good. Here's what I want you to do. I'm not going to put the Bible on, so I'm going to put this on the board. All right, so let's see here. Here's what I want you to do. Standing there, I want you to go halfway between where you are now and the bottom. All right, good. I want you to go halfway from where you are now and the bottom. Good, very good. I want you to go halfway between where you are now and the bottom. Very good. I want you to go halfway between where you are now and the bottom. You can't actually get there. It looks like you can, but you can't. Why can't you? It's infinite. You can just keep making fractions and 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 fractions. You get big fractions that we can't even possibly calculate. Here's the thing. There is no such thing as an actual infinite. You can't have an infinite series that, we could say we were created and we're going to live forever, so we're going to keep going on. We can't have, so here's the thing. Well, I'm going to make this simple. Let's look at it this way. If there was an infinite number of days before today, okay, not a lot of days. Okay, he was taking a lot of big steps toward that bottom. That's not what I'm saying. If there was an infinite number of days before today, I'm not saying 100,000, 100 million, 100 trillion, a googolplex. I'm saying infinite. Onward goes on forever and ever and ever. There was an infinite number of days before today. Logically, today never would have arrived. Because in the same way he really couldn't get to that bottom, theoretically, we could just keep walking toward today. Time could just keep walking toward today. It's never going to get to today because there's an infinite number of days. We're marching on here. And this is a logical fact. So the universe couldn't have existed forever. Because we would never have arrived where we are right now. Because it would have been the end of an infinite. You can't have an end of an infinite, by definition. So we can be sure that the universe began to exist. I didn't spend a whole lot of time substantiating that, giving you definitions for the second law of thermodynamics, and really sitting down, let's get into a textbook on Einstein. But we don't even need to, because those are not debated by physicists. These are common principles in science, and the facts of the implications as a result of them. We can be sure that the universe did, in fact, come to begin at a point in the finite past. So again, second law of thermodynamics, the universe is running out of usable energy, so it had to have a limited amount. If the universe had always existed, it would have run out of money. Universe is expanding. We hit the cosmic rewind button, we go back to a single point in the past, when time, space, and matter began to exist. In fact, that's what Einstein's theory, the general theory of relativity says, is that time, space, and matter are not eternal. They came into being. They're contingent on one another. And we know that there's an infinite number of days before the day because the universe has always been here. We know that the universe began to exist. Again, this is logic. Everything that began to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore, the universe has a cause. Now, you can watch specials on TV where scientists that don't believe in God, naturalistic scientists, can come up with all kinds of really fanciful theories. In fact, the Marvel Cinematic Universe came up with one, the multiverse, right? Again, you can't have a different series, so if one universe generates another universe, generates another universe, generates another universe, eventually they have to have a first universe that created it. You can't have a different series. You never would have gotten to that universe. So same philosophical principles hold. You know the universe has a cause, so what caused the universe? How do we get from the universe began to God? How do we get there? Because either something created the universe, or nothing created the universe. So we know there was nothing and then there was something. So either nothing created something out of nothing. That's a magic trick. Because nothing is what? Nothing. Nothing has no power. Nothing has no potential. Nothing is not intelligent. Nothing is not, clever. Nothing doesn't have a goal in mind. Nothing is nothing. Scientists who hold these naturalistic theories like to throw this out. All right, you got nothing. You're going to bring something from nothing. What kind of chance do you think you have? Nothing. Okay, so I think any reasonable person who doesn't have really bad blinders on would say, something in the universe out of nothing. All right. So what is that? Now we already see from science the keys to who created the universe. I'm not going to go by conjecture. I'm not going to cite a scripture passage to you. I'm only going to give you what we know from these scientific discoveries. Here we go. The creator of the universe had to be timeless. Why? Well, as good old Einstein pointed out, time, space, and matter are part of the creation. They came into being. There was a point where they didn't exist, right? So whoever created that is beyond that. It's not bound by time. He created time. Okay? Timeless. Spaceless. Again, time, space, and matter. Not bound by space. Right? Sounding oddly familiar so far. Immaterial. All matter. Everything that, we touch, taste, feel, all matter came into being at a point in the finite past. Therefore, whoever, whatever created the universe can't be material. Has to be immaterial. Excuse me. Timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all powerful. Why do I say that? Why do you think the being has to be all powerful? This is personally responsible for creating, bringing into being everything that exists out of nothing. So it's not like this clever being wielded something, used something, put two things together and got a third thing, literally out of nothing, brought all things. There's nothing stronger and more powerful than that which created all powerful. Personally, right? Personally. That's weird. We're talking science. How do we get to personal? Well, here's the thing. Something can have, the power or the potential to do those things, but it has to have a will that it's enacting to put it into practice. There's a lot of things with a lot of power around us that you're thankful don't have a mind of their own. They can't just go off and do something, right? Personal. Because this time and spaceless, immaterial, all-powerful being chose to create something like that. Yeah, that sounds a whole lot like that guy. In fact, let's say, all right, maybe this is a Christian fantasy. All right, let's say no, we won't posit God. Give me one other being, one other thing that has these attributes. In fact, atheistic scientists will tell you that we don't know what it is yet. They like to theorize what things that maybe it could be. They're not evidence, they're just theories. Right? The things we talk about today were theories until they were proven. Now they're evidence. Right? We know these things to be true, and we know from our very scriptures, from what God's people have been affirming throughout history, the only reason that all of these are among his attributes. God is beyond time, God is beyond space, God is immaterial. Yes, he can take on human form, but he in and of himself is spirit, right? Scripture says God is spirit. He's all powerful. It's a sovereign word. He is present. So this is the evidence, right, of science, of physics, not twisted, not bent, but demonstrated for what it is. Here's some things we can know. Okay? I'm not going to claim too much here. I'm going to go ahead and let the cat in the bag. I hope you already knew this. I believe Christianity to be true. I also believe Christianity to be well evidenced. We haven't proven that yet today. In fact, that's part of our ongoing journey here on Wednesday nights, right? But based on what we've seen, that the scientific and logical evidence demonstrates not just that God exists, but that a certain type of God exists. The theistic God, which is a type of God. There's only three major theistic religions in the world today. Christianity, of course, is one of them. Judaism is one of them. Islam is one of them. Okay? We believe in one God, powerful over all, brought all things into being. Okay? Has all of those attributes we just looked at. Okay? From that, what's not possible? What worldviews have to be incorrect based on the scientific evidence? Atheism, for one. Atheism is incorrect, which is funny because most of these proponents of science that try to wield it against Christianity are atheists. No wonder they have to come up with fanciful theories because their very system, their evidence does not support their worldview. Okay? Atheism, not possible based on what we know, the facts of physics and logic. Pantheism, the belief that everything is tied together. That the world, the gods, people, inanimate objects, everything are all interconnected. They can't exist one without the other, right? Because there could have been a point where there was a God without the world in pantheism. It's all interwoven together. So pantheism not being possible includes Hinduism, many forms of Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Wicca, and many other religions. In fact, most of the religions you see, like Israel's neighbors throughout the scriptures, follow this category. But again, Christianity is logically in line with the evidence that we have. And it should be, shouldn't it? If God's not just the author of this book, he's the author of the book of life. He's the author of this world. And so they never stand apart. And anytime you see, God's word on one hand and science or our understanding of the world on the other hand in conflict, it's because we haven't rightly understood one or the other. Because God's not divided. He created the world, he created his word, and a correct interpretation of both, and God is in peace. There's no contradictions. All right. So again, this is going to be our trajectory. I probably left a little too much time here at the end. Next week we're going to tackle the next two. But we have looked today at the origin of the universe, the fact that we know the universe had a beginning. You don't have to be scared of the Big Bang. Okay? The Big Bang is great evidence for Jesus. I'm not there for Christianity. We'll get to Jesus. But for Christianity being true, but we're also going to take a look a little more in depth next week at this universe that God created. Because looking at the way the universe was created is also evidence for God. Because that word chance again, oh my goodness, do you think the Powerball is long odds? There's no way this world is created as it is. No way the systems of this world are created as they are. There's no way that any one of scores of things in the universe, if they were just a small fraction different, life on Earth would not be possible. There's no way that all of the things that exist as they exist now could have been apart from an intelligent designer that created it just so for life to be possible, for his will to be accomplished. We're going to take a look at that. And then the morals, the universal moral, the fact that yes, there is an undeniable universal objective morality. And we can deny it, but as soon as the tables are turned, it's undeniable. And we're going to take a look at that. So, does the God of the Bible exist? I would say science says yes. We've got a lot of time for questions now. I guess I underestimated that time. But that's good, because I didn't have enough time to get all the questions last time. Yes.
George Lucas came up with Star Wars, he had this notion of the Force, which I'm sure he borrowed from somebody else.
Sure.
And the practical thing about that is it can be manipulated by people.
Yeah.
People don't want to be accountable to the person involved, so the Force can be manipulated. When you tell people who throw that out, it's
Sure. Same thing as this. When you think about pantheism, it's just full of let me give you some, I'm sure Pastor Joe's already given this to you, but I'll give you some good biblical context too from the Old Testament world. You see all these idols, right? The people of God, the prophets speaking against these idols, right? Because here's the idea in these pantheistic cultures is that, we can affect the will of the gods. Okay? That's why you would sacrifice a child to a statue of Moloch. That's why you would worship, an idol made of stone or an idol made of wood. Because by doing that, you are stimulating the gods and allowing them and causing them to act favorably toward you and toward your people. Because in that world, you have that power. And the Force is very similar to that. There's this belief that everything is interconnected, right? So what we believe, what the God of the Bible is revealed as in Scripture, what we see even from science, is that the creator of the universe is transcendent. He is not a part of this creation. He chooses to engage with it. But he is not a part of it. He's not tethered to it. He's not influenced by it. Now, doesn't mean he doesn't choose to act in it. Doesn't mean there's things in the world that don't bother him or please him. But you're not going to twist the knife or cause him to do something to pull his strings. You don't have that. And so I would say in that respect, the scientific evidence does not describe that type of God. It's just not possible. It's a good question. Any other questions?
So it is what is possible.
So far. So far, just based on what we looked at
Yeah,
today.
but I was going to say, it is what is not personal.
So not personal in the sense that we see the God of the Bible as personal the way he reveals and he engages with humanity. Personal in the sense that he can choose to act. So that's what I mean. When I say personal, I mean having personhood, like being a person, and so therefore can choose to act accordingly. So in this sense, the God who created the world had to have chosen to do so. So you can hold a grenade in your hand for as long as you want. It has lots of power. That's not going to do anything unless you pull the pin, right? So a being could possess these things in time and space and immaterial and all powerful, but if they're not personal, they can't make the decision to create it, then they're not personal. So that's what I mean. So according to the Quran, according to the Old and New Testament, those gods represented there are personal. So that's all. Now, the evidence we're going to continue to look at is going to definitely disprove Islam and modern forms of Judaism that demonstrate Christianity to be true. So keep tracking with us. That's a good question. Any other questions? Yeah.
An argument I had with a person regarding, the universe is he and so many others can only conceive of a physical reality. When I talked about God being outside of that, there being spiritual reality, that's where he shut right off.
Yeah.
Now, people like to talk about other dimensions, so I don't know if this is wise or not, but I said, think of spirituality is a whole other dimension, at least one other dimension. But that can be kind of,
Yeah.
so many people who just get physical. They don't think of what was before the physical, which is what was created.
Right. And so that's why I love this, because when you look at that, it's the one who created the timeless spaceless, material world bound by space and time. Cannot be any of those things. So have to be spiritual. Or if you only use the word spiritual, it had to be something other than timeless spaces. I haven't said other than bound by time, bound by space. So, by very definition, based on the evidence, you have to entertain the concept of spiritual, or use another word that means exactly the same thing, but doesn't have the same connotations. But yeah, they're going to be trapped by the evidence if they reason that. Yeah.
So, did I understand right before when you said that scientists now believe that God created the universe?
Okay, good question. So there are scientists that have come along, and some have moved to an anti-theist great example. He was a philosopher who argued against theists, that debated many theists at university campuses arguing against God's existence. And through debating and seeing the evidence, became a theist. Now, he never became a Christian, but he had to acknowledge God exists. The evidence was just too abundant. So yeah, so there have been those who have done that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these people, it's almost like they try to convince themselves that God doesn't exist, so they don't have to be morally responsible. You can go a lot of these guys.
Yeah. So my professor, Gary Habermas, is actually became really good friends with him, debating with him multiple times. So that's a first-hand account from somebody who knew him. Yeah, there are, we gotta remember, people have their own worldview. You know, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. We all have our own set of lenses through which we view the world, okay? That's formed all throughout our lives, what our parents have taught us, what we hear from society, the things we go through. And we start making judgment calls and forming beliefs about the way things are. And this is how we view the world. Now, that also determines what we're going to call our plausibility structures. That which we believe is possible can be possible, right? So why do you have a scientist who's looking at the same evidence we are, who comes to different conclusions? Because they're looking at it through yellow lenses or blue lenses. Because the facts are outside, or the conclusions based on the facts are outside their plausibility structures. They don't believe miracles are possible. They don't believe God exists. And so they start with those presuppositions. And because of that, they can't see the truth. It's right in front of them. Because again, I didn't manipulate any of this. You know, either the sources I pulled from that present this. Why do people look at it differently? Their worldview, and they're not willing to be objective with their facts. A lot of times they dig in their heels.
So what are the reasons they did that? They don't believe God like this.
So they will come, they are, because they believe that God does not exist, they will fashion naturalistic theories for why these things are true. So quantum mechanics is the biggest thing today. Not too long ago, it was self-generating universes and multiverses, and it gives the appearance of being created because it came from another universe, which came from another universe, which came from another universe. But again, logically, you still had to have the first universe. Even if a multiverse was true, it doesn't disprove the fact that you have an original created universe that people created.
Now, when you say universe, does that include or the galaxy?
Everything that exists in our world, all came to be at the same point in finite past. It's still expanding today. Space itself is still expanding. Good question.
Now,
Sorry.
Space is expanding, what is expanding?
That's where it blows my mind. But I'm sure that even Einstein and other physicists that have demonstrated this have seen evidence of this. Can't wrap their mind around what's beyond space. Because we think of this as something that's expanding into space. Space itself is expanding. I wish I had a better answer for you.
now, I know you're gonna find on from the science part of it, but do you have any material that shows us how close the Big Bang is to our
To our what?
Genesis?
No, you know what, interesting enough. You talk about like how old is the Earth and those
Well,
kind
no,
of.
I just meant like, I've done documentaries on the Big Bang,
Oh,
and
sure.
it almost aligns with Genesis up until the point of man's creation.
Oh, sure.
Once you get to man's creation, and say it was everything one, became something.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just look at Genesis 1:1, right?
Yeah, I mean, they do, they say the waters covered, they came together, that's like Genesis, and it's kind of true. But when they get to man, it starts from that little whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all of that here, because a lot of that's theory. I'm trying to deal as best with facts and grab all the pieces of it. But yeah, think about what the scriptures say. God spoke the world into existence. And guess what? Yeah, in a moment, in an instant, in a singularity, in a big bang, the universe came into being, time, space, and matter. Yeah, and what does this say? The earth was formless and void, and God is stamping out his creation.
I thought it was really crazy watching it, they said that when the Big Bang happened, and the first part of it, the speed of light was 1,000 times faster than it was. Everything is really 1,000 times faster than it was, like the speed of light now. And I thought that was kind of neat, because, the day is like 1,000 years.
Sure.
It's kind of huge.
It's a fun area to pour into for study, for sure. So I highly encourage. I am not a scientific mind, so I encourage anyone who's really into that. I'm big into history, so I dig deep into the historical evidence, because that's my bread and butter. Well, I have books I can recommend to you. I'll bring you a listen to. Yeah, that's good. Other questions? You have a question back there?
I was just gonna ask, how does Romans 1 fit into those that don't want to?
Yes. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So Romans 1, 18 to 20, right? So, know it, right? Better. We suppress the truth in unrighteousness, right? I mean, what we know, God's invisible attributes, his divine qualities, stamped in nature, his fingerprints are on it, right? It's clearly seen from what has been made. We're without excuse, right? So and that's why is apologetics important? Because all we're doing is pointing to that thing. We didn't create this, God created this by his grace. The evidence is there, we're just pointing people to it, right? And they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to continue to suppress the truth and walk in unrighteousness and rebellion against the Lord, or that's going to be that moment where the Holy Spirit is drawing them, and using you and sharing the gospel and some of the evidences, and things are going to start to click, and some walls are going to come down, and they're going to see that this is a rational faith, right? And by the way, those two words, they're not mutually exclusive, rational faith.
How do you feel? I've heard apologetics deal with this, like, I don't know if you agree, but, it takes faith to believe nothing.
It takes faith to believe nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah, well, there's a book. It's referred, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, right? It takes more faith to be an atheist. But here's the thing, I think that a lot of times we misunderstand what faith is. In fact, the world puts their definition of faith on us, and we somehow own it. right? As if faith was blind faith. We're not called to love, right? We're supposed to we're supposed to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind, right? He created us thinking, rational beings, right? He's the God who said, come, let us reason together, right? So when we think about what faith is, I promise I'll put this back. I can walk into a room that I've never been in before. I can see a chair I've never sat in before. Okay? I don't know who created it. I don't know if it's meant to hold my weight. I got a lot on me. Okay? But as long as I look at it, it's got 4 legs, a seat in the back. I'm going to take a step of faith and sit in the chair. Now, it may fall over, but the evidence would suggest otherwise. Well, that's a step of faith, right? Think about it. Now, if I come in and it only has 3 legs and a big wad of gum on the seat, I'm not going to sit in it, right? But God, by His grace, has provided us evidence, right? He's the same God that says, who forgave the sins of the paralytic and the Pharisees, and says, so that you know the truth of the things I'm saying. He turns to the guy and says, take up your mat, right? And so He gives us evidence. Now, how many of you know somebody in your life who you've shared the truth with? You've provided evidence. They've seen God at work, and you just know they have all the information they need, but they haven't committed their life to Jesus, or they haven't come back to Jesus. Do you know this person? Okay. There's a point at which we know the truth, but we are unwilling to put our faith in truth. Okay? But faith is that. It's that step of commitment to that which we know to be true. That's what so I hope as we journey together, and I hope that's scale all the way today, but as we journey together, you walk out with even more reasons to believe or even more thoroughly convinced of that which you believe. I thank you for providing with me this evening. I will be around if anybody has questions.
Thank you so much, Brother Kevin. Thank you, Mike, and most of all, thank you, Jesus, because you know what? He is the one who has given us